Yo, what's going on, guys? Jared here. Today I am joined by Chris Lynn, who just went 6-1 at the remote dual regional. I know I had a deck profile yesterday of the 7-0 with the Dragoonity deck, and now I'm here with Chris, who just went 6-1 with a Furniture Labrynth deck. This is a very different build than the normal Labrynth decks that you're used to seeing, like Ryan used. This is very different, and he's going to explain everything and go through it all. And yeah, just something really cool. So, Chris, feel free to take it away, and congratulations, of course.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so it's Furniture Labyrinth. I have theory on why I think it's better than the regular one. The Ryan Yu one is very like format call a meta call kind of deal where I think that it's heavily influenced by how people are playing. Which it's probably still working. And it's not like I don't think it's bad, but I like this build a lot more. Primarily because of how much control you actually have over the game state. In a way where the other one relies heavily on how you draw. I didn't sort my decks, so I'm just going to do it while I'm talking. But the the theory of it ends up just being that um, you get more value on each trap activation than a human should be allowed to have on any kind of activation. And it snowballs faster than you would think is possible.
I was
But you
talking to
have
you
to
before,
know.
right? I was talking to you before. I think at the 250, and I told you I got like destroyed by this deck in the giant card.
Yeah, I'm happy that other people are doing it now. There's a weird barrier of entry to finding this version of it, which
Mm,
is that if you test it with your natural instinct is to run one of each, right? Just to test out, like, yeah, I'll run one of each furniture, we'll see how it does.
yeah.
Um, that build is terrible because the cards aren't actually good yet. So the first furniture you activate is awful. Um, the second one you activate is the best card you've ever seen in your life.
Yeah, it
So
goes
then what
from
ends up
so many
happening.
minuses.
Yeah, you have to go -3 or something to go plus like 30. And what ends up happening is that if you're only running one of each, you'll never see the second one. You'll draw one and be like, wow, this is a brick, like this is terrible.
Yeah.
And then you're like, I'll never trigger the second part. But like you never trigger the second part because you don't have a million of them in your deck in the first place.
Hmm.
Um, there's a couple other factors to that make it so that like the regular Labyrinth deck has to draw normal traps to make it work. But if you're actually playing Labyrinth the deck, it actually handles a lot of stuff for you, so you can cut the tap count way down. You can play a very different deck composition.
Yeah.
Um, and that comes back in the 12 hand traps. So it's 3 Ash, 3 Nibiru, 3 Gamma, the driver, and the 3 Imperms.
Oh, can you just
That
flip it
make
over?
it flip it over.
Yeah, the
Oh,
other
right,
way.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That make it so that the deck works very well against a lot of the meta, specifically against Pasture, right?
Yeah.
And so the thing to remember with all of the imperms and all of the gammas is that against Castor, if they're your only hand trap, your primary goal is to hold it. You're not trying to stop them from making a Rise Heart. It's literally your turn starts and you just imperm the Arise Heart
Hmm.
on your turn. You don't actually need to stop them. And it's the same with the Gamma on the Arise Heart. Your turn starts and you just Gamma the Arise Heart whenever something happens. I mean, there's plenty of ways to trigger that happening. So these cards help you with like most of the matchups that Labyrinth has issues with going second. And it makes your going second. You're playing a normal deck, right? So then you've got these 12 hand traps. On top of that, when you're running enough furniture, the furniture themselves become hand traps. So then you have the 3 Ku-Klok, the 3 Torby, and the 3 Chandelier. And then the other Labyrinth monsters are 3 Ariana, 1 Ariane, which I'll explain last, 3 Lady Labyrinth of the Silver Castle, and 1 Lovely. So then that's all the monsters in the deck.
I just think it's
Um,
so funny that like for like a deck that is widely considered a trap deck that you're playing 12 hand traps, arguably more with the furniture too, as how they
yeah,
operate.
because
It's a very different and like you they really are different decks. You can't play against this isn't a deck you play against and you're like, oh, like I'm gonna put in Lightning Storm for their back row. It's like usually they have
oh
like one
yeah,
they have like one back row and it's like, all right, that's not really doing anything.
yep.
And then when they
There's
set
also an
more if
effect
they're
on
using
these
it.
two.
Hmm.
Yeah, yes. There's also an effect on these two that most people don't know about. Um, which is that so they each have so the green has the effect that I think most people know about, which is if a monster leaves the field by your normal trap effect, you draw a card, and then you can either special a fiend or set a spell or trap from your hand. But it has a hard once per turn, so you can't do it the same turn you search. This one also has an ignition effect as a monster, but it's for some reason this one says you can use each effect once per turn, so you get the draw effect on the same turn that you use the main effect.
I didn't
Um,
know that actually. I thought they were both
yeah,
you can
so
use
they're
each once for
different
each
for
one.
no reason. Yep, they're different
Oh.
for absolutely no reason. there's actually, you know what? There's balancing to it, right? It makes sense that they're different if you think about it,
Yeah.
but it's goofy that they're different because no one knows that they're different.
It's one of those things where
Um,
you look at them and you just kind of assume that they work the same, but they really don't.
yeah, they don't, and it's actually a big part of why I run one. It comes up a lot, and it closed a lot of the games that
Mhm.
might have spiraled out of control. Anyways, because another thing about this deck is that even as it's snowballing, there's still times where other decks snowball faster. Uh, but your snowball starts super strong, so there's times where you need to just close the game before they can start playing. Um, and this does a very good job of that. But that second effect says you can either special a fiend from your hand or set one spell or trap. So there's actually times where you'll have a power trap in your hand that you don't set because you don't need to. So you have coup clocks and stuff. If your coup clock effect isn't doing anything on your opponent's turn, then you can use it to basically dust tornado a trap out of your hand. So there's times where I'll literally set nothing and just pass completely because all of the traps, it just doesn't matter.
I've just
It
never
just in the first place, it never mattered.
the reference for those who don't understand the dust tornado reference. That's a very niche effect that not a lot of people know
Yeah,
about.
yeah.
Dust
Dust tornado
tornado
destroys
does.
the spell or trap,
It also
and
does
then
can
set the spell or
set.
trap from your hand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this is also that's also the way it plays around like Harpy's Feather Duster, evenly matched sometimes,
Exactly.
stuff like that. A lot of people forget about that. I think it's important to recognize that
hmm
that this is very unique in that aspect.
Yeah. So in Labrynth, like you'll often set up a board and just pass with no spell or traps. Your opponent will go like evenly or something, and at the end of the on a new chain, you can set your hand. So
Mhm.
it's really weird that you can do stuff like that. And those hands come up going first after your opponent decided for going second. If you know that they think you're playing a more regular Labrynth deck, because sometimes you open that way and they don't know you're playing so aggressively. Um, as far as how these are hand traps, they're all quick effects that you discard. So Coup Clock is a quick effect to discard it, and during that turn, you can activate a normal trap that you set this turn, but only while you control a Labyrinth monster. You don't have to control a Labyrinth monster to discard it, you just have to control one at the activation of the trap. Something I also didn't know until recently is that its effect applies and like at the activation window of your trap, right? If you activate a normal trap with Coup Clock because it was set that turn, and they solemn judgment it, for example, its activation is negated, you can activate another one.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, because it specifically says you can activate one.
So
And so
if
because
it's
you haven't
negated,
yet, you still can. Yeah, but it has
that's
to
cool.
negate the activation.
Right.
Uh Corby and Chandelure have the same effect. You can send them from your hand or field to the graveyard to discard a card from your hand, and then set a Labyrinth spell or trap from your deck to the to the field. It can set the field spell, and it can set any of the spells or other spells or traps. The way this combo works is that on your opponent's turn, if you have both of them, if you have one and one or one and one, you can discard Coup Clock and discard Corby. So I'll use Driver as the third card as the example. So discard Coup Clock, Chainlink 1, discard Corby, Chainlink 2. You can do them on the same Chainlink and it still works. This just has to be in the graveyard at the activation of the Corby.
Mhm.
Um, so it works under Shifter. So when your opponent shifters, you can go Chainlink 1, Chainlink 2, Chainlink 3.
Oh, that's
Um,
cool.
the Torby will set Big Welcome Labyrinth from your deck, which I'm going to assume you know what it does.
Yeah.
And then Coup Clock will resolve to let you activate that Big Welcome if you control a Labyrinth monster. Coup Clock has a second effect that if a card is sent from your hand to the graveyard to activate a normal trap or any Labyrinth card or effect, it summons itself or adds itself back to your hand. So then after you resolve the Corby on a new chain, the Coup Clock will trigger to summon itself or go back to your hand. Usually you summon it. On the summon, you can activate Big Welcome because now you control a Labyrinth monster. As a tip against playing against Kashira, on the summon, you have to say to your opponent, "Would you like to do anything on resolution of the Coup Clock? Like, do you want to do anything with your trigger window because it's their turn, right?"
Mhm.
Um, when Fenrir triggers to target the Coup Clock, you chain the Big Welcome to bounce it. You actually want them to make that mistake, and most people don't know about that in the first place.
Yeah.
If they don't make the mistake, the Fenrir might land on something later. Against Castra, you're actually almost always it's going to be like Fenrir effect, add Unicorn, activate Birth, and that's when you're doing this. So you want them to use their Fenrir on this so you can activate Big Welcome, and then you summon Lovely from your deck and bounce the Coup Clock. The Fenrir fizzles. This triggers to destroy a card, and then the furniture you discard from your hand if a monster left by a normal trap. So this will summon the Chandelier will come back to your hand. And so then you get all the cards back, right? Because so you invest the three cards, and it turns into this card in your hand, this card on the field, and on the field it can trigger again, right?
Hmm.
And then this card on the field, and this card's destroying the birth, for example.
Plus, big welcome in the graveyard as
Um,
well, which is also relevant.
and big welcome in the grave for when your turn comes back around. Yeah. So then a lot of times they'll be like, okay, draw phase bounce something, and then you like clear it.
Hmm.
Um, so that's the general combo of how these cards work. Going first is the same combo. You just suck cards out of their hand because this also does that.
Yeah.
It goes for their hand or field. You don't have to tell them which one you're doing, and it's at random if it's in their hand. The non-targeting aspect of it is honestly just insane. There's a lot of times where you activate it, they like do a bunch of stuff like summon a Hugin to make it so it doesn't matter, and then you just go for their hand instead.
I like that
Um,
the like it adds a lot of consistency playing the six furnitures because they just also set like they set like the traps from the deck like welcome and big
yeah,
welcome.
exactly.
So it's like
So
you're playing
actually,
more
it's
copies of
more.
them.
It's interesting because if you open these three together, going first, you get to set two traps out of your deck, I think, or you get one and then you pick a second one later. If you just open three traps, you don't pick them and it's just three traps and it's over, right?
Hmm.
But opening these three, if you open these two together, you're going to get a new trap every turn for the rest of the game.
Yeah,
So
you
you don't
just.
actually need to be drawing traps and you don't want to draw traps.
Mhm.
Also, this is a quick effect to summon. So during this combo, if I have this, and this, you can summon this on your opponent's first turn and then immediately start setting new traps on your deck.
Yeah,
That's the combo for if you have this, and this, you can set the Eradicator from your deck on your opponent's first turn. You can't. There's no way to activate it,
yeah,
but you can like literally just say like when my turn starts, you're getting Eradicator
yeah.
immediately.
I mean, the fact that you can
Um,
start getting value from Lady on the turn zero of the game when they're going first is like
yeah,
very good.
that's actually another thing is that when once you recognize that this all works, you find out you don't need to open Coup Clock to have interruptions.
Hmm.
So I did have a game where my opponent, after an Ash, I think, ended up making a Shankar Ra in passing, right? And I just had Corby, Big Welcome, and Lady.
Oh, it's
So in
game.
this hand specifically, yeah, it's game. You just discard these two, set one from your deck, summon Lady, bounce it, and they're
All in
dead.
draw
There's nothing
phase.
they can do.
All in draw
Yeah,
phase.
in their end
So
phase. In their end phase. I did
all in
that.
the
That
end
was end
phase.
phase. That was
Yeah,
their end phase. I just did it. And
yeah,
then you do it, and then this comes back in your draw phase, then you use it again.
yeah.
There's just nothing. There's nothing
You
they can do. The game's already over.
you have a lot of freedom to like with
Yeah,
like how your cards work.
you can do it feels like you can do anything you want in positions that you shouldn't be able to do anything you want.
Yeah, I
For
always
this,
say this deck was so confusing to me until I played against it, and then it all like came together like so fluently when I saw it being operated,
yeah,
and I'm like, whoa, this is really cool. Like, holy crap, this does
yeah,
so much
mhm.
for. It looks like it's not doing a lot, but it's doing a lot.
Yeah, it's doing an unbelievable amount. It has a weird problem. One of its biggest weaknesses is that it's like three or four chain links between any of your when you start inputting actions and when you want to do stuff. So it's
Yeah.
like I want to destroy one card on the field. It's like four chain links away. But like that is the balancer for the fact that those chain links you can start doing whenever you want. Like they're
Mhm.
not tied to a ignition or anything. You can just do it.
Yeah.
And so those four chain links are you're very free to move them around. I think the chain link one, Ku Clock, chain link two furniture to trigger it is a very important thing.
Yeah.
Doing them on separate chains leaves you open to weird stuff.
Mhm.
And doing them on the same chain makes it. You go chain link six a lot in this deck, like chain link 6, 7, to try to play around stuff.
Yeah.
Uh, Labrynth, obviously, and three Extravagance, obviously. Extravagance over Prosperity is specifically because, um, first of all, it says you can't draw for the rest of the turn, and you use the draw effects of these very often. Like you want to do it like every turn. So
Mhm.
sometimes in your draw phase, with the Ku Klux Chandelier, instead of going for Lovely to destroy a card in their hand, in certain matchups, game three, for example, you'll know that you prefer to summon this out of your deck and then bounce the Ku Klux and get the draw. Um, and then you can get that draw before activating Extravagance in your main phase. You can
That's
actually draw like
cool.
three or four cards in a
So you can
turn.
actually dodge the
Yeah.
extravagance restriction in the draw phase, which is how these cards
Yes.
operate,
Yeah.
and then still do extravagance. That's
You'll
so
play like
cool.
a you play a lot of your turn in the draw standby phases, and then the extravagance will just sit in your hand. And then like it's interesting because you'll make like two or three trades with your opponent's field, and they'll be like, okay, they're mostly done, and you'll go standby phase, main
Main
phase,
phase, yeah.
activate extravagance. Yeah,
I love doing that in the Runic Sprite deck too. You're just doing a bunch of stuff in
yeah,
draw
yeah.
phase. It's just like, oh, okay.
And there's like no way there's more. Um, Vivid Tail, I'm gonna have to explain. Radicator and Daruma Cannon are my two main uh power traps, and the only other traps are three welcome and three big welcome. Oh wait, these are what these are switched. And then
nine trap cards in a
the
trap
imperms,
deck.
9 traps and the imperms.
Yeah.
So 12 technically.
Now,
Um,
can you explain the one Eradicator, one like the high impact normal traps, which are those two Eradicator and
yeah,
Durma Cannon? Because I know when I played against the deck, he Durma Cannoned me, and I'm like, okay, that sucks, but like I have a good grind game, and then he Durma Cannoned me again,
you don't
and
have
then
a
he
better grind game than
and then he
Labyrinth.
and then he Durma Cannoned me again, and I'm like, okay, I
Oh
kind of
yeah,
can't play anymore. So
yeah.
if you want to talk about
Daruma
how
Cannon's
it
interesting
operates,
because. Mhm. So it's actually the perfect card for what the slot needs to do. uh, Labrynth surely by itself generates 2 or 3 removals every turn. If you're accessing every Labrynth card every turn, which the furniture lets you do. So when you're careful with them, you almost have to think of the pop from Lovely Labrynth as a Dryden pop. And if you think of it that way, you're very careful with what you pop instead of being like, oh, I have like 4 punishments set, right? Instead of just willy-nilly popping everything you see, you have to be very careful about where you use your pop because most of the time that's your only removal.
Mhm.
Sometimes you have the bounce and the pop. Sometimes you have the field spell up, which adds a lot. But that's around the cap of how many interactions you actually have in this deck, which is why there's so many hand traps. But also, most decks have those choke points where you can get them. This deck's actually worst matchup is Kashira because some of their hands don't have any choke points at all. Um,
They just have
but
too
for the
many
most part,
extenders. Yeah.
every yeah, if they open like two, like Birth, Theosis, Fenrir, if their hand is too many extenders, then you just can't choke them at all.
Yeah.
Um, but there's still choke points in that deck and you just have to hope they don't have another one in their hand. Um, other matchups you can recognize their choke points and just get them no matter what.
Yeah.
So this deck's very good at handling choke points and stuff like that, but you have to make sure you're playing that way. If you just keep popping the first thing, the deck will seem terrible because you really only have that one interaction every turn,
Mhm.
which is where the Druid mechanic comes in. Because every once in a while you can sync those interactions into a search with Lovely and have a coup clock. So for example, if you have, or I mean Lady, if you have Lady and Welcome Labyrinth, right? You can go Welcome Labyrinth effect, summon Ariane, add coup clock. That is to say, if you don't already have a coup clock in circulation, because coup clock, every time you activate it, if you activate Chanticleer afterwards, it comes back to your hand anyways. So in theory, every time you activate coup clock, it should be followed up by a Chanticleer. The Chanticleer should get a big welcome, and the big welcome should add back to Chanticleer, and the Chanticleer adds back to coup clock. So every turn, those 2 cards should come back to your hand.
Yeah.
And when I say every turn, I mean every turn, like your opponent's turn and your.
Yeah.
But if you're not in that cycle yet, sometimes you have welcome set already and a lady. You just summon this. Lady triggers chain link 2 to set a normal trap that's probably going to be Darunacam in half the time, and then you get a coup clock. And then you have an interaction that is very powerful. So Darumakanen, I say, is the perfect card for this slot where you only get 1 search almost for the entire game. Because what it needs to do is it needs to end a lot of investment at once.
Mhm.
And so like single target interactions and stuff are often not enough because your opponent will be able to set up a couple things. You can wait a long time on Darumakanen to set everything when you know they can't continue anymore afterwards.
Yeah.
And putting them face down prevents them from using things like Birth and Theosis and summoning other Astro monsters as opposed to removing them. But it also does a second thing where it says then if either player controls a face-up monster, they must send all face-up monsters they control to the graveyard. And so this also handles this deck's other problem, which is that it can't clear towers. Um, so it actually solves 2 of the deck's biggest weaknesses at once, which is because you have single pop removals that you have to put at choke points. If the deck doesn't have reliable choke points, you need something that just basically is torrential. But then at the same time, when you play against tower stacks, you have out to that too.
Yeah.
So it does everything you need in a large variety of matchups, and that's why it's that one.
And you can bring it back,
Um,
and it's recyclable.
yes, and you can reset it every turn with Lovely.
Yeah.
And after you activate this, the Nibiru will not tribute your field anymore.
Mhm.
So that's the other thing. Um, the last thing is the Eradicator, which I feel is semi-obvious. It's Eradicator. You call spells and you get lucky and they get sad. Um, to be fair, there is one deck dev in the side deck that these just swap. It's one or the other. I never have both in.
Mhm.
This one's for Mathmech
Have you
and
ever
Strike.
considered like D-barrier or anything like that?
There's one D barrier on the side. I cut it from the main deck because the dimensional barrier is actually not that good against anybody. It's only good against branded, right?
Yeah.
But you're trying to grind branded, and the issue with dimensional barrier against branded is that if you flip a D barrier, they summon a what's her name? What's the girl? The quick
Uh.
effect of synchro, the
Oh,
fusion.
Cartesia.
Cartesia, yeah. They summon a Cartesia set branded in red, and you're still screwed. It just doesn't matter. So Eradicator is the same thing, and it actually works as opposed to this one, which doesn't actually work. Um,
You just gotta
it's
be
in the
careful with
side deck.
Eradicator if they like normal summon Aluber and then still get
Yes,
Branded
exactly.
Fusion
Yeah.
too.
But then usually you'll have like an imperm too. Like it's never just an eradicator.
Mhm.
Something about the way that this deck wants to do eradicator is that most of the time the setup will involve having a lovely set with this on the field, right?
Mhm.
Big welcome set with this on the field. So let's say you have a coup clock in your hand, big welcome set, and a um you're in this position where your field is big welcome set, coup clock in your hand, this on the field. So you go draw phase, activate coup clock, right?
Yeah.
And then you go activate big welcome. and then chain this to set. So this Chainlink 2 sets this, and this Chainlink 1 is going to summon. You summon Lovely Labrynth, and then bounce the Lady Labrynth. On a new chain, because a monster left the field by a normal trap, you say Chainlink 1 effect of Lovely, and then after that resolves, or if they try to implement Chainlink 2, call spells. So the spells go first, and then on Chainlink 1, it destroys whatever's left. So
Yeah.
it destroys out of a pool of only the things that the Eradicator missed.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. I like that a lot.
Yeah. Doing it in that order handles a lot of those problems.
That's neat. I like that a lot. Just the fact that you can actually get rid of all the spells, then hit a card after that.
Yeah,
You
and
just take away
sometimes
so
you
much.
can't. Sometimes you have to hit first, and it feels really bad because then you just get unlucky and it doesn't work. And you hit a spell, you're like, oh dang it. But most of the time you can get it that way. You want to set it up that way whenever you can. Now
Yeah.
as for why there's a Vivid Tail in the deck, so I
Can you
think everyone that's
tell
playing
us
this
what
deck.
it does? Can you just tell what it does?
Okay, you're right. Vivid Tail is a normal trap that says target one card you control, return it to the hand, the end of effect. So it targets any card you control, including face downs. Uh, if this card is in your graveyard, you can target one face-up card you control, set this card from your graveyard, but banish it when it leaves the field. And if you do, return that face-up card to the hand, but for the rest of the turn, you cannot activate cards or the effects of cards with the same name as that monster that you return to the hand. You can only use, or as that card, it doesn't have to be a monster. You can only use one effect of Vivid Tail per turn and only once that.
So it
So you
bounces
can't
a
use
bunch
the
of your
field
own
effect in the
stuff.
graveyard. What?
So it bounces like a bounce of your own stuff. Like it keeps bouncing your own
Yeah,
cards.
yeah. If you set it and wait to activate it, it does that 3 times, right? Because one time is a trap card, one time from the graveyard, and then again as a trap card. So the interesting thing about Vivid Tail is that if you've played this deck long enough, at some point you can pulse on yourself to trigger a combo, right? Because every one of these cards triggers when a monster leaves the field by your normal trap effect. And so by that nature, we've also been using Big Welcome to do that too. The interesting thing about Vivid Tail is that it's that, but twice and on purpose, which makes it very unreasonable because it's a graveyard card that becomes an actual normal trap later to trigger Lovely and stuff like that, or regular Lady. And it does trigger Lovely too. So there's a lot of times, for example, with Ariane, which is why these two cards are a pair. This card will get searched by the Silver Castle onto the field, and the Ariane will immediately make it live. And so then, because you'll find that sometimes you need to get the big welcome boost in value and tempo, but then you also need to activate a big welcome later in the turn, and you can't do both. The Vivid Tail lets you do that by doing that, and then on your opponent's turn, it lets you do it again. So you get 2 tempo boosts in a row that don't cost you any. That cost you like half a card each time, and you still are playing full power Labrynth around it, as opposed to trading the big welcome you have for that turn into getting the tempo boost.
So the
So the
second effect
example,
is
for example,
it's almost like the second effect of Big Welcome, but you don't have to literally use Big Welcome. You can actually still use the first
yes,
effect of Big Welcome in the same turn. That's cool.
exactly. So like, let's say, for example, I have Ariane and Vivid Tail. So this is the actually original combo from before Big Welcome was even out. Ariane sends Vivid Tail, and you summon Ariana. Ariana triggers, and you add Lady Labrynth to your hand. Effect of Lady Labrynth to summon itself. Activate Vivid Tail, target Lady Labrynth. So this is where it comes up from before that this is not a hard once per turn. Because a monster left the field by your normal trap, the Ariane triggers to draw a card now. When you draw a card, you can either summon a fiend or set a spell or trap from your hand. You summon back the Lady Labrynth. On your opponent's draw phase, you go activate Vivid Tail, target Ariana. Ariana returns to your, and then Chainlink 2, Chainlink 2 Silver Castle. Set the Eradicator or whichever power spell you need.
Oh my god, wait, yeah, I see it now. Holy crap.
Yeah. This goes back to your hand. The Vivid Tail is banished. This triggers because the monster's off the field. Resummon, add Ku Clock, activate Ku Clock.
And you draw 2. Oh my god.
And you draw 2, yeah.
So you draw again, get Ku Clock, and use the Ku Clock to immediately eradicate your opponent. Holy crap, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, so Vivid Tail's a bananas card that comes up in every single time you're in a position where you're thinking to yourself like, boy, I wish I could really take off right now. Searching the Vivid Tail. So like if you have like this is a common scenario too, is just having welcome. Like this scenario where you have this in welcome and you think like, wow, I should be able to do a million things from here, but then you can't. It's literally welcome, Chainlink 2, set Vivid Tail, summon Ariana, they're dead. And so when I say they're dead, it's because this is an FTK OTK also. So you go Ariane, send Vivid Tail, summon Ariana. Ariana's effect adds this, so this is that regular line. You make Muckraker, which I guess I should show the extra deck now. You make Muckraker, and then discard a card to bring this back. So that's 3,000, 18, and 1,000. You're, I think, what is it? 38, 48, 58. You're 2,200 short, I think.
Yeah.
In the battle phase, you go Vivid Tail, target this, bounce it, and then this triggers a draw. You summon it again, attack for game. Um, you can't use the effects of that card again that turn, but you're not using the effect. It's the Ariane that's summoning
Yeah,
it.
that's
So
so
this OTK
neat.
comes up a lot too.
That's so
A
cool. Oh
lot,
my
a
god.
lot, a
Oh
lot.
my god, that's
Yeah.
so neat. Oh, that's
Another thing that's been coming up, by the way, there's been multiple situations. This one comes up a lot. It's actually come up 3 times now, which is crazy to me that it keeps happening. But like you'll have your field, you'll be in like this position, and you'll have like one set card. You'll feel like super prepared for anything, right? And some stuff will happen because you set this up with furniture, and your opponent will just go like activate thrusting, and immediately when they go activate thrusting, you'll just go like chain link one target, chain link two target, chain link three target, and it'll just go set, bounce everything, and their thrusting has to set. And that's come up like 3 different
you
times.
forced them to set with the
Yeah, you force
rusted.
them to set and they just pass their turn. And that's happened 3 different times already. Like they just keep falling into it where they're like, there's no way this thrusting doesn't resolve. And you just freaking take it all. You take everything.
That's so cool.
But
That's so cool.
you have
Oh
to
my
be seeing
god.
stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. This
The
deck reminds me of like the Nataria Riddick deck where it's like if you miss small
Yeah,
stuff
you
like
have to
that,
see stuff.
yeah.
Yeah. There's another regular combo in this deck actually that's a funny one where you'll resolve an Ariane and be in a position like so. This is actually how I beat Castro the last round like twice in a row. I just did this and then just made Baguska and passed. Um, and so your opponent will think they're in like a relatively safe position from here, right? They can just do their stuff and then pass their turn. You're not going to kill them with the Baguska set. But
Yeah.
then in their end phase, you'll literally just go activate Big Welcome, summon Lovely, bounce Baguska effect, and then like they just can't play
Yeah,
already. Like it's
you like turn
you,
skip them
yeah,
and you're
you,
just already threatening.
yeah, and you kill them so quickly from this position because again, you have an Ariane access, so they're
Hmm.
just dead. Um, and then that'll come up mostly when you have the field spell because you'll get the field spell pop here too, and you usually
Hmm.
have to like handle something before the Baguska leaves the field,
Hmm.
and that does it for you.
That's
But
cool.
yeah, that's one of the ways you deal with Kashira, which is why there's 2 Baguskas in here. So the extra rec is 2 Baguskas because you run extravagance and you need it a
Yeah.
lot. One Myria Logic for the side deck. So the 3 power traps in the side deck for replacement are Punishment, uh, Barrier, and Devastator. Devastator is for Sprite and
Math mech, you said, right?
Math Mech. Yeah, Dimensional Barrier is like for like Sword Soul. It's actually not for branded. It's more for Runic, which is weird. Because you really don't, again, like before, you don't actually hurt branded that much by saying you can't fusion for one turn, right? Because they're like you in that they're going to do half their fusing on each turn.
Mm,
So you're not actually doing that much with a deep area. You need to actually play them more. You beat
interesting.
that deck by out grinding them, which is interesting. You just grind them further than they run out of extra deck before you run out of Labrynth cards.
Hmm.
Uh, Punishment is for weird rogue stuff. It's just too good of a card to not have access to. That's really what it
Yes.
comes down to for
I
me.
I do agree.
Um,
Punishment is like such good in Rogue.
yeah, you just pull it into your deck and you find it when you need it, and there it is. And that's what the Mirror Logic is for. The Mirror Logic is actually also for I side 3 Ultimate Slayers, which I'll explain in a little bit. This one's almost for Runic and for Brandon.
Mm,
And there's a couple matchups otherwise where it comes up, Sword Soul, etc. 2 Bucephalus for the Ultimate Slayers and for the Punishment. 1 Lingaribo because I actually am scared of Sprite making Ibly, not Astra making Ibly, I guess.
mhm.
Um, 1 Nightmare Phoenix because it's a fiend. So every time you activate Welcome Labyrinth, you're locked into fiends from the main and extra deck for 2 turns. Uh, so there's non-fiends in here, but the Nightmare Phoenix is being a fiend is important.
Yeah.
The Muckrakers, 2 Muckrakers because they come up a lot. You need them. Muckraker gets you back into Lovely a lot because Big Welcome's the only one that summons from Graveyard. There's a lot of times where you just need to get the Lovely back into play. And because you're playing furniture, you're going to end up with like poor Biku Clock on the field a lot, right? So you have access to this card more than you would think.
Hmm.
A lot of times the right play is to just make the Muckraker and set a Lovely and set a card from your graveyard and pass.
Yeah.
1 Omega also for the reasons before. The Slayer and the Punishment. This one's also for the Gamma. The Lambda's also for the Gamma. Lambda comes up. There's Lambda hands. So like
Hmm.
if you have Ariana Kuklok and you go Ariana add Chandragleer, Kuklok Chandragleer, the Kuklok comes back and you set a big welcome. Activating big welcome there is broken. But a lot of times you get Ash there. So if you're kind of have like a bad feeling and you have a Gamma in your hand, you can just make Lambda and pass and just not use your Kuklok activation for the turn. because then on your next turn when you activate the Lovely, you'll have a Lambda on the field, and that matters more a lot of the time.
Mhm.
Uh, 2 Entis for the punishment in the Slayer, 2 Garura for the Bucephalus, the Slayer, and
Yeah,
the other one. There's other extra deck cards that are fiends that come up that I've messed with before. In the end, it kind of came down to these ones and running extras for Extravagance and Unicorn.
I agree. Like
But
you make
the
the choice
yeah
between Prosperity Extravagance because I think about like the DDD stuff in
yeah
there too, with the big
yep.
guys. But
There's the other little things or the other choices are yeah, like you said, the DDD combo. You can actually run Sprint and some other stuff if you're really feeling it. Um, you can run because the Corby's level 2. You can run Dugaris. Dugaris is a fiend and comes up also.
mhm.
And the other 2 Nightmares, obviously. The rest of the side deck, besides the Ultimate Slayers and those 3 Power Traps, are 2 Gamma Seals and a Godarla just to handle Cashier because I'm scared of that matchup still. 3 Cosmics for the Mirror match and also for Runic, and it's associated Rogue and evenly matched for everyone all the time, depending on how you feel.
Yeah.
I almost type even these for people rather than decks. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like it's hard to tell. Most of the decks you side evenly with are just like, I wonder if this person is the kind of person that gets evenly. You know what I mean? And then
Are
you
they
just
playing into it? Yes or no?
yeah, yeah, exactly. Um,
You also can get a
on
lot of
that
info
topic,
game one, like depending on how they do their
yes,
combo, and then it's like okay, they're playing
that's
into it.
true. Yeah. You were talking about prosperity over extravagance earlier.
Yeah.
Uh, I think extravagance is better in this deck because, well, first of all, you're playing furniture, so you need more cards to sync, and if it
Yeah.
misses, you need more cards to play after
The raw
that.
extra cards is super relevant.
Yeah, and there's also something to be said for your like card variants, the power values of your cards, how much they vary. In
Mhm.
Kashtira, the variance of your deck's power, your deck, like is like 20 of the cards in your deck are like the best cards you've ever read in your life, and the other 17 are like the worst cards you've ever read in your life, right? And so cards like Prosperity are very important because you need to find the one that isn't the worst card ever made.
Mhm.
In this deck, your deck is almost all the same card anyways. So 2 of them is better than one of them, like 99% of the time, no
Mhm.
matter how good you are at choosing.
Right.
Uh, this card doesn't fit that bill, all obviously. Driver doesn't fit that bill, but in general, the extravagance is very important
Mhm.
because of that reason. So you just need this. The extra card is just like unreasonable, and how much synergy you have with it over prosperity.
Yeah.
Um, there's a lot of weird synergies in this deck with the Nibiru and the Gamma,
I've always
simply
said
because of
it's
how much.
like I said before, like
Mhm.
it's so hard to know what's like how the deck fundamentally operates unless you watch it be played. Like it's so hard
Yeah.
to think about. Of like it's like oh
Mhm.
like the boards look weird, oh it's wonky, but then you play against it and you're like oh my god
Yeah.
it
There's a
just
weird feeling when you're playing it where like the game starts and you're like, boy, I hope I get to there, with
mhm,
there being like a hard to explain feeling of I can't lose anymore.
yeah
And then like at the beginning of the game, you'll notice that your opponent isn't even trying to prevent you from getting there, right? Because
yeah
they don't really know that you're trying to get where you're trying to go. So they'll kind of like almost interact with the wrong things, but nobody could possibly know what the right things are in the first place except you.
yeah
For now. Eventually, maybe people will figure it out and it'll get a little harder to play this deck. But
mhm,
there's times where they don't recognize that there's like 1.5 turns of period of time where one thing needs to happen, and as soon as that one thing happens, you just can't lose ever again.
right
Um,
yeah you get so
and
far
like
ahead
one of
so
them is like
fast
the Nibiru helps a lot. So Nibiru doesn't have to be in your hand to resolve. Once it's activated, if it leaves your hand, it tributes the field, and if it can't summon, it doesn't summon, and if it doesn't summon, it doesn't make a token. So a lot of the times your opponent will do stuff and you'll just go like chaining 1 Nibiru, and they'll say okay. It'll be like chaining 2 Kuklak, they'll say okay, and then chaining 3 Chanticleer, and then the Chanticleer sets one, and the Kuklak resolves, and the Nibiru tributes everything, doesn't come out, and the Kuklak comes back, and you can kill them.
and they still have trap yeah
So yeah, yeah. So the Nibiru is uh the best torrential. So the slot that some people play torrential tribute and they're like, wow, torrential's crazy because I needed something like this. Nibiru is the better trap card.
mhm,
Somehow it being sendable by becoming a 0 card for the Chanticleer to make it like negate its own cost,
yeah
um, is somehow more important synergy than it being a normal trap. So this is actually the best normal trap for Labrynth. This is the Nibiru.
especially if people aren't
Um,
respecting it right now
Exactly, yeah. It's very goofy. And that ebbs and flows. I do terrible with this deck when people respect Nibiru because I'll just open 3 of them and I'll just be like, well, I guess I can't play. And that one's like a little bit my own fault, but whatever.
yeah it's bound to
The
happen
same thing will
sometimes
happen. Yeah, exactly. That'll happen with the gammas too, where you won't even realize it. You'll do gamma and then you'll do the Labyrinth Chanticleer, and you'll be able to bounce the gamma with the big welcome. Or you'll be able to bounce the driver with the big welcome and then discard it for Chandragleer immediately. And you'll just have Gamma again later. And it's just like, oh my God.
So before I end this, what is there anything in the deck you would like want to change, or do you think it's like perfect the way it is? A 40? It's a flat 40?
Uh, yeah, it's 43 actually.
43. Okay.
Um, 43. It's just some random number. The problem. So the two power slots are actually the things that are the most likely to change, and then the hand traps are the things that are the easiest to change also.
Mhm.
These two are hard to change, but this one is obviously format related, and this one is also obviously a little format related. This one is hard to find cards to replace, but depending on what decks you're expecting to play against, it might have to change. But just recognizing that every hand in your deck is these two cards, right?
Mhm.
Um, Knowing all your lines, how to get there, like how comfortable you are getting there in a certain amount of chain links too, because sometimes you're like going back and forth on priority to get these two out. You have to know if they come out in time. If you have to play Ku Klok after setting one of these, they can Cosmic Cyclone them before you can get the Ku Klok to resolve,
Mhm.
and then that kind of screws with them too. So knowing like when to put these on field and how to put these on field is super important. Sometimes you have to get these on field in their draw phase and then wait to activate them, for example.
Right.
So these two cards are very flexible, and everything else, the engine part of it kind of has to be what it is,
Mhm.
but the actual output of the engine is one of these two cards, and you can do whatever you want here. So that's up to you and how you feel about the format, who's at your locals, stuff like that.
Yeah, that's
The
fair.
hand traps are also going to be all flex spots, right? Every hand trap is just a hand trap. It could be Valor, it could be Ghost Spell, it could be Ghost Ogre, whatever you
Droll,
think is going
etc.
to be good. Yeah,
I know
exactly.
Droll's popular right now, so.
Oh, heck yeah, it is. Freaking
um,
this deck flies under Droll and Shifter, by the way. That's a big part of it.
yeah, yeah. It's unfortunate, but it's it does happen.
Or I mean, like it doesn't matter. They don't matter. Like you can
Yeah,
just
yeah. You
beat.
can play around it if your hand's
Yeah.
right,
Hmm.
which is always good. So do you have any shoutouts before end it off?
But yeah, big game home video. The YouTube channel has funny videos. He's not a Yugi tuber, but he plays Yu-Gi-Oh. He's Julian Lipoff of Agent fame. And yeah, I guess that's about it.
Perfect, perfect. Once again, congratulations. You got sixth place, right? So it was
Fifth,
fifth place,
but
fifth
I
place.
mean, same thing. Who cares?
Yeah, it's top eight regardless.
Yeah, top eight. Not top four. Top eight and not top four.
Well, congratulations. Hopefully I'll see you at YCS Philly, right?
Yep. Yes,
Dope,
you will.
dope. Sounds good. And I'll see you guys later. Bye, guys.